So, as we said, we're artists. We're primarily visual artists, so we make artwork that often goes in galleries and things like that. But we also do a lot of projects, a lot like this one, where we work with people, and we do music as well, which is a big part of why we're here. But first off, this is one of the artworks we've made. This is probably the biggest thing we've ever made, and as you can see, it's the rear section of a passenger aircraft. And obviously we didn't make that, we didn't build a plane and then cut it in half. We found an old plane in a scrapyard, got someone else to cut it in half for us, like a big saw. And then we went up on some really high, slightly scary scaffolding and painted that image you can see on the tail of it there, which hopefully you can all tell, if we paint it well enough, you can tell that that's a big stag. So the place where this happened was a country house that had a deer park all around it. And it's up near Manchester. And it was part of a big sculpture exhibition that happens there every 2 years. There are loads of other big sculptures all throughout this park. And what we wanted to do, because we're really interested in wildlife and animals and things like that, and nature, so we were imagining how we could get kind of closer to these animals, how we could paint them, and that kind of thing, the drawings and paintings of them. And we kind of came up with a bit of an unusual solution. We thought we'd make an artist studio, but we'd make it out of a bit of an old plane. So we painted one of the stags up on the tail there. We thought maybe that would attract other stags and deers to come closer and have a look at us. And then inside on the front, we put a window, and there was all easels and paints and things like that set up inside, so that it became a bit like a story. So if you went and looked at this, you could imagine these artists living out in the countryside. Maybe they've gone a bit wild, they haven't cut their hair, they've maybe grown a beard, and they're living out there in this funny artist studio, painting all the deer that they can see around them.
So as you can see, I never recovered from that project, and I still have the beard. As well as making sculpture and painting, we build our own electronic instruments and play as a band and do gigs and concerts and what have you. So these are the instruments that we use at the moment for the live stuff we do. I play the one near the front, this one. And it's a bit like a bass guitar, so I do all the sort of low notes in the songs by pressing these buttons in the rectangle over here, and then the ones on the neck there, I use those to change the sound. So we're not going to be using those this week, but what we do with those is very similar to how we make sound with Sonic Pi, like we're going to be doing during the summer school. Our drummer has a series of pedals and a drum kit he built himself. These are some foot pedals that both Phil and Joe, our drummer, use. This is his drum kit set up with all his pads. And this is Phil's instrument that Phil plays. It's a bit like a keyboard, but it's one of the sort of best looking keyboards I've ever seen, I think. So well done, Phil. And there we go. There's some more detail on it. And Phil can play notes with these keys. And with that joystick, he can also bend the sounds, change the sounds, do quite a lot with them. So it's a bit like the ultimate sort of arcade joystick controller in some ways, but yeah, it doesn't actually work with computer games, but it'd be nice if it did. And these are some shots of us trying to look cool, playing live, that we thought we'd put in. So you can see us moving around here. We've got video projections and everything. I think there's even a bit of smoke in the air there. So there you go, very rock and roll. That's a close-up of me playing my guitar. You can see it's quite nice that it catches the light and kind of goes fluorescent and changes. There's Phil rocking out on his keyboard. There's the two of us rocking out. And there's our drummer Joe, kind of gently rocking out on his drum kit. So hopefully that's given you an exciting idea of what we do live. So as well as making music and artwork, we quite often put those two together. I'll pass you over to Phil.
Thank you. Yeah, this is another project, as Ben said, a mixture of art and music. We had these USB flash drives made, And they're printed with the name of the project, which is called Blackbird in InfoSpace. And we've got some other USBs here. They're in your boxes at the moment, and you're going to be using those over the course of the project too. So you'll be able to get your hands on some other custom-made USB flash drives shortly. But what we did with these was we created these series of download points. So these were little sculptures. They were made by using laser cutting, so designing things on the computer and then going to a machine, cutting it out in layers and sticking it all together. And there's a bit of electronics inside that as well. And what happens is you take your USB to it, you plug it in, and then you press one of those buttons you can see on there, and that transfers a piece of music onto your USB drive. And there were five of these. I remember it clearly that we made for Worcester, so a town in the west of the UK. And we placed them in different places all around the city. So the idea was to get our music, our 5 different pieces of music, there was one for each of the download points. Instead of going to iTunes and really quickly being able to just download something, you stay in your room, just download it, you've got it straight away. You actually had to make a journey around this city and go to all these different places. There was a record shop, a museum, the town hall, an art gallery, and the library. So you had to go on a little trail around the city, finding these different points, following a map, and then you could download your songs. It's a bit of a reward for going on that journey. So it was kind of like a really, really slow iTunes.
Yeah, and I think hopefully it's a good example of one of the things we really enjoy about making stuff and using technology is doing it ourselves and putting it together and finding ways and solutions to do something. And it's one of the things that really appeals to us about the Raspberry Pis and Sonic Pi, that it's very much allowing you as an individual to take that equipment and do whatever you like with it really, if you can kind of work out how to do it. And it's a bit like a puzzle in some ways. And I think Sonic Pi is a little bit like that. It's going to involve slightly rethinking perhaps how you make music if you're used to making music in certain ways. But it's a nice, exciting challenge, I think, to do that.